All right, thank you for coming. Good to see you all here. This is in our series of anti-aging, and we have come to the third part about anti-aging. And we will talk about free radicals and antioxidants today. So there's a quote from a book by Dr. Perlmutter. He's a neurologist or something, and he says, "The same forces that age your body are aging your brain, only they hit your brain earlier and harder." And then number two, these culprits are at the core of virtually all brain degeneration, from mild memory issues to Alzheimer's. So virtually all long-term, all chronic disease is related to some form of degeneration and some form of inflammation and these low-grade things. And these are due to two things: the proliferation of destructive chemicals called free radicals. So that's what we'll talk about today, what they are and what do we do about them. And the second is the decline in the ability of the brain to make energy. We've talked about that a little bit before. We take a lot of stuff for granted in the body, but everything takes energy. There's not a molecule that passes across a membrane without being shuttled. It takes energy to do all those things. Something like digestion, we take it for granted. It takes as much as a third of all the energy that you make goes to digesting the food in your body. And when you when you get an infection, when you get sick, your body shuts down because it needs all that energy to make little cells so that you can fight off the disease, to make white blood cells. So all these cellular processes require a lot of energy. And when the body's ability to make energy goes down, then our ability to maintain balance and fend things off also goes down. Today we'll talk about the first of those two, though. We'll talk about free radicals. So what is a free radical? We're not talking politically here. We're talking biochemistry. They're also called reactive oxygen species. So you'll see these two terms interchangeably. And what it is something that has been oxidized. When you burn a log on the fire, you're oxidizing that log. And it's happening at a very high temperature, but in the body it's the exact same thing is happening. You're taking carbon, which is what wood is made from, and we take carbohydrates and fats and proteins that have carbon in them, and we oxidize them. And that's because we can't maintain those temperatures of a fire inside our body. We have enzymes instead to make those reactions happen. But anytime that you oxidize something, you will have a free radical, because that's what oxygen does. So it's sort of a necessary evil. It always has to happen, and there's always a detrimental byproduct. But the key is to maintain the balance. So with normal metabolism, there is sort of a normal amount of free radicals. What we're mostly concerned with is the excess amount of free radicals that are created by a detrimental lifestyle and by toxins and by stress. So free radicals are inevitable. We just want to try to control the excess, and we want to see what we can do about balancing out the whole thing. Antioxidants, why is there so much talk about them? Because they neutralize free radicals. And we will talk specifically about something called glutathione, which is the king of all free radicals. It does the majority of all the antioxidant work in the body. So what is a free radical? So here's a molecule, here's an atom, here's the nucleus, and then we have one electron shell and another electron shell. And in the outer electron shell, depending on the size of it, but typical electrons such as oxygen and most carbon, they want to maintain 8 electrons in the outer shell. But when oxygen comes along and you burn something, when you extract energy from it, you are pulling off one of these electrons. And now this molecule is a free radical because it is very reactive. It's like the Tasmanian devil. It's this twirling, jagged thing that just sort of abrases everything in its way. Because it's so reactive, it will do whatever it can to react with something else and pull another electron off of something else to fill that shell again. The problem is, whenever it does that, it's going to pull an electron from something else, and that thing becomes a free radical. So that's the problem with free radicals, is that they cause chain reactions. Whenever something is a free radical, it'll try to get that electron back, and in doing so, it creates another. The key to antioxidants is that they can donate an electron without becoming a free radical. There's something about their configuration that they can do that and not become so unstable. And the best one of them all is called glutathione. And it's not just a molecule, it's not just an atom, it's a large molecule. It's a tripeptide, meaning it consists of 3 amino acids, and we'll get to that also. And I think that was all about that, yes. So what are some antioxidants? The most common ones are things that we get from the food, and the acronym that people want you to memorize is called ACEs. It is vitamin A, C, and E. Let's write that up. ACEs. So that's vitamin A, C, E, and selenium. Those are the primary antioxidants that we get from food, and they're all very important, but they may not be enough. And vitamin A we get from things like carrots, carotenoids. They're yellow and orange, and leafy greens also contain those. Vitamin C comes from citrus, green peppers, leafy greens, fruits and berries. Vitamin E from nuts and seeds, whole grains, and leafy greens. You notice how leafy greens keep showing up? Maybe that's a good thing to eat. And selenium comes from fish, red meat, grains, eggs, chicken, and garlic. Then there's a bunch of these new ones that they have started talking about a lot. Flavonoids, polyphenols, lycopene, lutein, lignans. So don't memorize it, just kind of read up on it. You don't really have to worry so much, you just have to eat good food. That means whole food. The more that we process food, the more that we change it, the more we destroy the antioxidants because they're part of live food. So the most important antioxidant of all is called glutathione. And what is that? Besides being the king of antioxidants, it's the body's #1 intracellular defense. So inside your body, you have all these different cells, and they have nuclei with DNA in them. But then you have interstitial fluid between the cells, and this is where waste products and things drain into the lymph. And then you have blood vessels that carry the blood cells. But there's an intracellular environment and an extracellular environment. And your DNA, and most or all actually of the metabolic processes, occur inside cells. So there's not much action. All what we're talking about health is really happening inside the cells. The other stuff is just a transport system. So glutathione is produced inside the cells. So we'll make a little triangle and call that glutathione, 'cause it's a tripeptide. This one, if we can eat this one, but it is too large to pass across the cell membranes. It will not, we can't eat it and get it absorbed. It has to be manufactured inside the cell. And it is the number one thing that your body uses for all sorts of defense and all sorts of detox. There are books written about glutathione because it is so important. So if we can't eat it, then how do we get it? Well, we need to make it inside the cells, and we need to have the raw materials to make it. And the raw materials are called cysteine, glutamine, and glycine. They're in your notes. They're 3 amino acids. And if you eat these 3 amino acids, they'll be broken down, then they will be absorbed, and now they're small enough to get into the cells, and now your body can use those amino acids to rebuild the glutathione. There's only really one that you have to be concerned with, and that's cysteine. Cysteine is basically always the one that's in short supply. So if you just make sure that you have enough cysteine, then you'll always have enough building materials to make the glutathione that you need.
How do you get cysteine?
It does occur, it is in food.
Mm-hmm.
All amino acids, or most amino acids, are in most foods. It's just a matter of how do you get enough. And in the case of cysteine, I would suggest getting a supplement because it's very inexpensive and it's very powerful. If you want to try to get it from foods, then the main group to get it is from sulfur-rich vegetables. And we'll get to that also. So what does glutathione do? It protects the cells and the DNA. It protects the mitochondria, the energy factory. It protects the liver, your detoxification plant, your chemical factory. It protects the brain that regulates everything. It protects them from free oxidative damage, meaning free radicals, but it also helps in elimination of heavy metals, such as mercury and lead. So one of the first things you want to do for heavy metal elimination is glutathione and the precursors. And your immune system also benefits from glutathione. First, because it is made inside of the immune cells. So if you have an infection and you need to make lots of immune cells, you need lots of glutathione to be inside of those to protect them. But more than that, natural killer T cells, those are cells that go around and protect against cancer cells and foreign invaders of all sorts. And they are activated only by glutathione. So people with HIV and AIDS are typically extremely low in glutathione. And by bringing that up, you can actually help their immune system as well. So we have genes inside the DNA, inside the cell. There are genes that code for the manufacture of glutathione. Just like we have, it's just one of the 100,000 proteins that we can make. The genes code for all of that. And typically, especially in cases of things that are important, like glutathione, we have several genes that code for that. And they're not identical in all human beings. Just like some people have blue eyes and brown eyes, and we have one or more genes that code for different things. The genes that we have that code for glutathione are different also. And people who have a full set, like to have a complete set of all the genes, they have a fantastic defense against all sorts of things. They're generally extremely healthy. And most of us, though, don't have that complete set. We don't have all of them. We have some of them. And there's one that's fairly crucial, that as many as 50% of the population are missing. An interesting thing is that if that, from self-selection during evolution, as our DNA adapts to the environment, we tend to favor the traits that help survival. But apparently, if so many of us have that gene missing, then that must not have been a big deal throughout the thousands of years, because otherwise we would have died off, and only the people with a strong gene would have survived. So the difference is, our environment is so much more toxic today than it was during the last 40,000 years. If the environment is clean and we don't have so much stress and not so much toxins, then you can get by on not making so much, and it's not even a disadvantage. But the more toxic the environment gets and the more stressed we get, the more crucial it becomes to have that full set. And if we don't, then we need to do something extra to supplement and reduce stress. So the last 20 to 50 years, they have added 80,000 chemicals to our environment. We eat dead food, we have heavy metals in all the fish, and now those partial genes can't quite keep up. So again, I hate every time this sounds like a doomsday lecture, but we just have to realize that what we've done, where we are, is not ideal, and we just have to do the best with it. We have to do something about it. So glutathione is your most important molecule for health. It is depleted by poor diets, processed foods, preservatives, etc., pollutions, toxins, medications, stress, trauma, aging, infections, and nutritional deficiencies. And that's all in your notes. So. And conditions associated with lack of glutathione is virtually everything under the sun. Chronic fatigue, heart disease, cancer, chronic infections, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, arthritis, asthma, kidney problems, liver disease, etc. Glutathione is so powerful that in the emergency room, if you come in with liver failure from overdosing on Tylenol, which by the way is fairly common, it doesn't take much. There's tens of thousands of cases every year. It's so common that there's a protocol for it in the emergency room. The first thing they give you is cysteine, so you can make more glutathione. That's how powerful it is. And the name for what you get is NAC, stands for N-acetylcysteine. And that's the supplement form that you can buy also. It's very inexpensive and very powerful. They give it to people before they do kidney or contrast X-ray imaging. When they know they're going to expose people to a lot of radiation, they give them some N-acetylcysteine ahead of time to help protect the tissues. So it's a common and it's a powerful thing. So 8 ways to boost your glutathione. One is sulfur-rich foods. And there's been a lot of talk. There's people saying that they have cured MS and they've cured autoimmune diseases and cancer and different things from eating sulfur-rich foods, sulfur-rich vegetables. And the main reason is that the sulfur they're talking about is a sulfur molecule in cysteine. When you have more cysteine, you can make more glutathione and you balance your body out and help protect it. Those are things like garlic, onions, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, collards, cabbage. It's all the cabbages and all the green stuff basically, or most of the green. Second thing is to take bioactive whey protein. Whey protein has been found to have virtually none of, if it's done right, to have none of the bad properties of dairy. Most people in the holistic field who study health, they're not very favorable of milk and dairy products. But the exception is whey protein, because when you process it right, it is very, very low in allergens. Very few people are allergic to it, and it has tremendous benefits. It helps the body make glutathione. It's a great protein, it's a great food, and it's a little bit on the pricey side when you get it the right stuff, but think of it as food, because it's really like a meal replacement. So if you spend a couple of bucks on it, it's what you don't spend on food. It has to be undenatured. That means you want to take an organic, grass-fed, holistically raised cow, take their milk, and you process out the whey without using heat or chemicals, because now you maintain all the properties, and that whey is called undenatured and bioactive. Virtually all the whey protein sold on the market is whey protein isolate, and they tell you, oh, this is great because we've isolated all the good stuff. No, it's not, because they use acid and chemicals and heat to process it, and they denature it, and it's not what it's supposed to be anymore. It's more of a burden to your body than a benefit. Exercise will raise glutathione, it will help your immune system, and it will help detoxification. 4, N-acetylcysteine. We said that already, used in the emergency room to treat liver failure and also for lung and kidney damage during X-ray studies. So even they know about it. 5, alpha-lipoic acid. This is a second antioxidant that's second only to glutathione in importance. That's something that you can eat that your body does utilize, and it helps with various antioxidative functions, but it also helps replenish glutathione, because you're always sort of recycling glutathione in your body. 6, methylation nutrients. So a methyl group is a little appendix thing on a molecule that the liver uses to make things less toxic. So if you have something that's really, really toxic, then the liver takes methyl groups and slaps them on this really toxic thing, and now it's not so toxic anymore, and it becomes typically water soluble, and you can flush it out with the bile the natural way. So methylation is very, very important, and there's 2 in particular, B6 and B12. So whenever you take B6 and B12, those vitamins are important by themselves, but if you take them when they're made to have a methyl group on them, now they're just many times more beneficial, because now they do so much more. So as you're taking those vitamins, you might as well take the better form, which is the methyl form. So B12 comes as methylcobalamin, which is the one you want. The cheap one is cyanocobalamin that they throw in 99% of all multivitamins.
Can you mark that down?
Yeah. So cyanocobalamin. Can you read that?
Mm-hmm.
And methylcobalamin. And there's nothing wrong with this one, it's just cheaper, and this one is just so much better because it, in addition to giving you B12, it helps you in detoxification. And then you have the ACEs that we talked about, vitamin A, C, E, and selenium. They help the body recycle and produce more glutathione. And then there is an herb called milk thistle or silymarin. I guess that's how it's pronounced. And for thousands of years that's been used to help in liver disease and to help boost glutathione levels. And on the sheet that we have printed out for supplements that you want to take, all of these things are already in there. And the super multi that we recommend from Life Extension has all of these and more. It has all of the lignans and lycopene and all of those antioxidants that they've found. That's really a lot of what you're paying for in that supplements. That long list, most of those are antioxidants of different kinds that they have found to be beneficial. So that concludes it for tonight, for this afternoon. Do we have any questions?